President Biden is in Mexico this morning for the North American Leaders Summit.
Today, the Mexican president is set to meet with both Biden and the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for the first meeting between the three countries since 2021. Joining us now is White House correspondent Monica Alba and Mexico Institute Board Co-Chair and Public Policy Fellow Ambassador Earl Anthony Wayne. Thank you both for being here this morning. Monica, let's start with you. Things got off to a heated start yesterday in the opening meeting between President Biden and the President of Mexico. Walk us through that and talk to us about what happened.
Yeah, this was a sharp exchange between the two leaders, Maya. And of course, the U.S. and Mexico have deep diplomatic and economic ties. This is a key ally, of course, regionally, but also in terms of some major issues. But AMLO, as he is called here, the Mexican president, did start off his remarks in this meeting by essentially saying that the United States hadn't done enough for Latin America. He said, quote, "You have the key in your hand," to President Biden, to providing more aid and assistance to the region. He wasn't just talking about Mexico, but other countries. And AMLO also argued that the U.S. was working too much with Asia in terms of producing some goods, that, again, he wanted that to return to the Western Hemisphere. But President Biden responded defending what the U.S. has done, saying, of course, our responsibility is to the world, not just one or two continents, and also saying that he has provided a lot of aid during his first 2 years in office, particularly to Latin American countries. Take a listen to how he laid that out.
You know, the United States provides more foreign aid than every other country just about combined in the world, to not just the hemisphere, but around the world. I wish we could just have one focus, only one focus. We have multiple foci, and so that's what we have to work on, and I'm confident we can do a great deal more in tandem with one another.
The president also raised the issue of fentanyl specifically coming from Mexico, and that is an area that the two leaders have pledged to work together on in the coming months and years. Maya and Joe.
Ambassador Wayne, let's bring you into the conversation here. Clearly, immigration is going to be a major topic at this summit. Last week, President Biden announced a new immigration policy that would send 30,000 migrants a month who entered the country illegally back across the border. Your reaction to that policy, do you think it's going to help stem the surge in border crossings?
Well, I think it is an important first step in that direction. I think it's trying to send a clear signal to those migrants who are on the move that they won't just be able to get to the border and claim asylum. The other part of that is the U.S. pledge to open legal pathways for these migrants to apply from their home countries and then come into the United States. But this has to be accompanied by cooperative steps by a number of countries across the region, and that will be discussed today when the three North American leaders get together. This is a massive flow from many countries, people fleeing authoritarian regimes, economic crises, crime, other things. The only way you're going to really start slowing this down is a whole series of acts where the United States acts, Mexico acts, and then other countries join in that. And so in that sense, that's where there really is partnership right at this moment with Mexico in these first steps, but it's just a beginning.
And Monica, today the Mexican president is set to be meeting with both President Biden and the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, as we mentioned, for several hours of talks. What's on the agenda?
Yeah, they're going to be talking, of course, about mass migration and border policy, as was just discussed. They're also going to be talking about some major global challenges like climate change, energy policy, and then, of course, the three leaders are going to come together and talk about things they can do when they work together. Of course, this is known as the sometimes called the Three Amigos Summit, which is a friendly description, but there was a hiatus during the Trump administration. These three leaders got back together in 2021. And that was all about repairing relationships. But now it really comes to actual work and deliverables. So they're going to be talking a lot about some economic initiatives and also empowering women. There's going to be a lot they're going to say can come out of this summit. But some critics often say there's a lot of talk and a lot of promises. What actually comes out of it, we'll have to see down the line.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.